Hi everyone. Right, I did say I'll come back and do a question and answer. Now I've gone through a lot of the emails, a lot of the messages and picked out as many questions as I can. Some I have answered before, but newbies won't know where they are and won't have heard of them. So I've got 22 questions that I'm going to answer. I'll do them as quick as I can. And I did find them quite interesting actually. So these are questions that's been asked. I haven't said who's asked them because some people don't like the name mentioned. But yeah, some of you will probably have heard some of the answers before. So just bear with me. Like I said, I picked them up from questions that have been written in comments, questions that's been sent to me via email, via the shop, via messages, you know. And just while I'm about to start that, I just want to share this with you. I'm making my sister, one of my sisters, I've got 5 sisters. It's for her grandson, Leeds United Football Club. I'm just going to put a ball there, but it's going to be on a disc, like a print off on a disc. And it's a dream catcher for him. And I've done these. I've got the white to do yet for the tassels. So I'm quite looking forward to doing that. So I'm just putting that up out of the way. But I've made this out of straws. And then these are wooden letters. This was a hoop that I've just wrapped wool round. And went round and round and round and round all the way. The whole of that. Painted this blue. It's got to be painted again. This has got to be tidied up, of course, and then the back's got to be painted as well. So that's a dream catcher for her grandson. So I'm just going to leave that there while I start on the questions. Now it says, I'm working backwards with the questions. The last one to be asked was, what is the best way to keep scissors sharp? As far as I'm aware, apart from a sharpening block, you know, like a stone that you can sharpen it on, the best way to keep your scissors sharp is tin foil. And many of mine need doing. I just don't get round to doing them, but tin foil, just keep cutting tin foil, fold some tin foil up, cut it, and it sharpens your scissors. Question number 2, how many flowers have you designed? I've answered this one several times. So far, the designs that I've actually done myself are approximately 480 designs, and that's from card, paper, fabrics, laces. So my actual own designs are about 480, but on the YouTube channel, you will probably, if you typed in flowers on my channel, you probably get about 700 because I've also revived many of the old ones. I'm not the only one that does them, of course. I'm not saying that, but this is a question for me. What have I done? So I've revived probably in the region 250, something like that, of old-fashioned flowers, like the poppy flower, and the old vintage flowers, the vintage roses. I've shown you how to do them, and I have a book which many of you have seen. Now I can't remember the bloody name of it, but it's I've shown you the book, and then I do the ombre flowers and that from it. They're absolutely beautiful flowers. It is vintage, you know, from the 1800s. Question number 3, are your siblings artistic? When you say artistic, we were all, so I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and we were all taught to knit. So artistry is lots of different genres. And we made our own Christmas tree decorations, our wall decorations, our own flowers. We made everything. We learnt to knit, to crochet, to sew, to embroider. We were taught all of that when we were growing up. Everything was done by hand. My mum used to do her, I mean, my mum's not here anymore, neither is my father, but my mum used to embroider her own white cotton pillowcases and put embroidery patterns to them. And we were all taught, well, I was definitely taught to do that. So my siblings, yes, many of my sisters knit. One of my brothers knits, and he is a year older than me, and he knits. He's one of the neatest knitters I've ever known. And he knits left-handed. And I just thought it was a natural thing for us. It was normal when we were growing up that we all did the same sort of things. Woodworking and things like that. And I absolutely adore that sort of thing. So yes, yeah, some of them are artistic. Number 4, have you ever burnt your fingers with a glue gun? Yes. I was doing an after-school class with a number of children. And we were doing, you know, learning how to use the glue gun and whatnot. And one of the glue sticks got stuck in the end of it. And I happened to press the trigger really hard. So this is my glue gun. And I pressed this really hard because it like was getting stuck in the chamber. And it poured out and went over those 2 fingers. And it hurt. I can tell you, I had burn marks on there for it. It's still got a sheen to it. I had to run it under the cold tap really quick. But my God, it hurt, I'll have to say. It really did hurt. And I'm lucky my fingers knitted back together sort of thing, because it just blistered. Oh, it was bad. But it was a lesson to be learnt. Number 5. What is your favourite art to do? Well, I have 2 favourites that top everything else. Miniatures and flower making. I do love flower making. I do. I love it. And I wake up at night with a flower in my head and I have to come and sort it out and see if I can do it sometimes. Because what's in my head, to get that into my hands and into a project, it can take a lot of doing. It's not as easy as you think. And as for miniatures, I've loved miniatures. I have answered this one before. I've loved miniatures since I was about 8-9 years old. My late father did me a film studio, and it had a little TV. It had like a microphone that hung down on an arm, and that was on wheels on a little. So it was like a copy of a miniature film studio, and I was fascinated how he got everything to move. The wheels moved. The handle moved with a wire, dropping the microphone up and down. The TV knobs worked, you know what I mean? It was fascinating, and that's where my love of miniatures came from. Number 6. Does art run in the family? Well, like I've just explained, that ties in with number 3. Yes, it does. My father used to do, excuse me, my father used to do painting in oils, watercolours, which I introduced him to actually, acrylics. He also used to do woodwork. You know, he'd make anything. My mother wanted a cabinet, he just made it. And it doesn't matter how intricate it was and all the carving, he'd do it all. And he also used to restore antique furniture and antique objects. Like I remember him doing I have it now, it's an antique what you call a tea chest, a tea cabinet, and it's just a box, and inside are 2 glass pots with lids, they've got wooden lids, and you just lift them off and the tea was put inside. And it was an antique one. When I say I've got it, I had it for many years after my dad passed. But I've given that to my daughter because Sadie wanted them. She's got all of them, including one that my father made when he was a trinket box, a big wooden one, when he was 15. And he was actually trained by his uncle. He had a 7-year apprenticeship with him. And that's where my father learned how to do woodworking and things like that. But the one thing about my dad, he used to go to London a lot and work in the old banks, work in the old shops where it was all, you know, 1800 fittings and things like that, because that was his skill. He was a master at it. He used to paint masters, you know, the old paintings. You can't tell the difference. And I do have a painting It's called A Woman Frying Eggs. And I will get it out, take another picture, a decent picture of it. But on my channel, you can type in painting, and there is a video where I share photographs of what my father used to paint. He loved doing that, and he was very good at it. Not so much on animals, but he did get some of them right. He did me a beautiful, beautiful wolf, which I have at the top of the stairs. But in regards to his woodworking, and there's lots of different woodwork he used to do. Like he'd cut. It's like, you know, you get wood in strips, but very thin. You can unroll the marquetry and that. He absolutely loved it. He'd unroll it, cut the shapes out, glue it into position, and make a pattern in a tabletop or something like that. And so yeah, that's on my dad's side. On my mum, she used to do flower arranging, so that's where I got my love of flower arranging from her. She used to embroider, like I said. She'd knit, she'd crochet, she used to do all of it. And we all used to make our own clothes. And I always remember when I was very young, we all used to sit, for the two youngest sisters, we used to sit, they didn't know, but at night when they'd gone to bed, we used to sit and make the dolls' clothes and make them outfits. So come Christmas morning, they had a pack of outfits for, not a new doll, but a pack of outfits for the doll they had the year before. I always remember that, and yeah. I used to enjoy doing stuff like that because we were all together doing it. Number 7, does Raymond have an artistic streak? Yes. Raymond is extremely good, like my father, in regards to wood. And you can, if I want anything building, like when we first got together, we were doing the bedroom out, and I said to him, I'd love some big chunky furniture. Not ornate or anything like that, just something basic, but I wanted some big drawers, because you couldn't buy them like that. And he went, oh, you draw it and I'll make it for you. And he did. And he made me 2 huge units. There were 2 big drawers at the bottom and then 2 smaller drawers above the big drawers on both sets. Oh my God, my wardrobe and everything. He just made it all. And yeah, he's very, very good, is Raymond. And if you don't know, and those that are new to this channel, if you type in garden on my channel, I show you the whole process of doing the back garden. 2 or 3 years ago, Raymond, he was over 70 when he did this, and he redid my garden for me. He put in decking, built the shed, built all the decking at the back of the garden, built the bus stop, what we call a bus stop, but it was a shelter. Then built the quiet area. He made all the fencing. He didn't buy the fencing, he made the fencing instead of buying it because it was cheaper. And he did a fantastic job. So yeah, it's quite artistic. Number 8. Have you taught any arty things to your grandchildren? Yes, my oldest grandchildren, which is my eldest boy's 2 sons and my youngest boy's 2 daughters, the 2 eldest daughters. They all used to come and stay with us for the weekend when they were younger. And they spent every weekend with us. And so they had their own tubs and pots with everything in, and paint had come out, plaster of Paris had come out, you know, you name it, anything and everything would come out, and they'd sit and they'd just craft, and they absolutely loved it. They loved the clay models, you know, doing clay models. And they've got their own videos on my channel. So if you know, type in clay or dragon and things like that, or, you know, type the name in Jamie Lee, Billy May, Deacon, Ethan on the channel, and whatever they were doing at the time comes up, and you'll be able to watch them. And very, very good in their own right. Very good. What is the worst mistake you've ever made? Well, one that sticks in my mind constantly. I made, and I wouldn't wear it today because I don't like lime green, but years ago, well, I was 15. And my mother bought some lime green, like a knitted fabric. And I don't know why. I liked the colour. It had little coloured specks in it. And I decided to get the sewing machine out. And I made myself a skirt. And this particular day, I wore the skirt while I was making another skirt using the same pattern, but in cotton, because it was summer. And I sat cutting the pattern out on my knee. So I'd pin the pattern to the fabric, to the cotton, and I'm sat there cutting away like mad. And when I stood up, I had cut a V out the... I cut a V about that big out of my skirt, and this just flapped forward. And I was a bit peeved about that, but yeah, I didn't waste it. I hand stitched it very carefully, and added some trim to it, and I still wore that skirt. I wasn't going to waste nothing. So yeah, that was the worst mistake I've ever made, and it just sticks in the mind all the time. Number 10. Which time of year do you like best? Autumn. I love autumn. I like going around collecting leaves, you know, anything I put in the press. Raymond made me a beautiful press, and I did have a couple of presses before that. And we used to do it with the grandchildren. We'd go in the autumn, pick all the leaves up, find all the nice autumn colours, and you know, we'd roll them in clay to make the pattern, then cut something out with. Just autumn. I absolutely love autumn. It's a wonderful time of year. Summer, brilliant. Too hot sometimes. Winter, it doesn't bother me. I mean, it never hurts to get a bit of wind in your hair. Blow the cobwebs away, as my dad used to say. Don't bother with the snow or anything like that. Love that as well. Like to do photography in the winter. Spring, love the spring flowers, but these days you don't see many of them. Not like we used to when we were growing up. The spring flowers were everywhere, you know, side of the road, edge of your gardens. Now you don't see any. You're lucky if you see one. Number 11. If you were to be shipwrecked on an island, what would you like to have with you? A needle and thread. A needle and thread. Because if there were palm trees, I could stitch all the leaves together. I could plait them together, so I wouldn't really need a needle and thread. But yeah, if the clothes I was standing in got worn, I'd be able to stitch them up and I wouldn't feel so naked or, you know, bare, would I? So needle and thread. Comes in handy as a toothpick. Yeah. If you had thread, you could do all sorts with it, couldn't you? Needle comes in handy for poking things and eating shellfish and things like that. So there you go, needle and thread, two useful things. Number 12. Would you ever change anything if you could? Yes. But not. Now it's really hard because I'm on my second marriage. So would I change my first marriage? Yeah. Would I change my anything? Yes, my first marriage. But not for the children, because they're my kids. You know what I mean? I'd never swap them in the world, and I adore them all, regardless of what some of them might think, but I do. I have 2 boys and a girl, and Sadie's the youngest. Gary, who has Jamie Lee and Billy May, Bobby and Aaron, he's the middle one. And John, my eldest, has 2 boys, Deacon and Ethan. But I think that would be the only thing I changed, is my first marriage. Nothing else. Because everything else that I've done in life, gone through in life, seen in life, been involved in life, has made me the person I am today. And I think we need experiences. A lot of kids today don't have experiences. They go from cradle to having children themselves very quickly. You know what I mean? They've no life experiences. And so they've nothing to teach their children. That's unfortunate, but that's the only thing I'd like to change. Number 13. Are you finally at peace after losing your best friend? Now that came from somebody, it was actually from a friend of mine who wrote that. So it wasn't a shocker. It didn't upset me, and I get where she was coming from. And the answer is no. No. Just bear with me. It's as raw for me today as it is the day I knew she died. When her son phoned me and told me to go to the hospital to see her before she passed. So I'm not at peace because we had plans. We had so much we needed and wanted to do. And I can't say we've never... It's really hard. How can I say this? Right. Julie and I were best buds for 45 years, for those who don't know. And she was my best friend. The bestest of the best. She was a sister. She was my rock. As I was hers, but we did everything together. We saw each other 2-3 times a week. We talked every day on the phone. If I had any issues, she'd just drop everything for me, and I would do the same for her. And so we went through an awful lot in those 45 years together. I can't believe she's gone. I probably never will get over it, but I know she's at peace. And so she's at peace, but I'm not. And I have some really, really bad days. But I suppose when you lose anybody, people, you know, there's things that'll remind you of them. And but because we travelled a lot, we went to Scotland at least probably once a month. Just maybe for a weekend or a few days. We travelled all over the place. We just spent a lot of time together. We were the best friends, the best of the best. And I miss that because in my lifetime, I've had, should I say, 2 best friends. And now they've both gone. And so sometimes, yes, I've got 5 sisters. Yes, I've got other friends. But you don't have the friends you have when you've got best friends. I ain't going there. But, Julie was the best of the two friends, if you know what I mean. Julie and a long-time friend who I knew for 35 years was Judy, who I lived next door to when I lived in Lancashire. And she unfortunately passed away about 15 years now, I think. Where Julie's, it'll be 2 years this December. But you only have a chance in, like, normally people only get one really, really good friend, the best of the best friend in their lifetime. I was fortunate, I had two. And so they've both gone, and it's like, what do I do now? I may get over it eventually. Maybe. I don't know. But I'm not at peace with it. I don't know. It's like, why have they both gone? And for anybody who's lost a loved one or, you know, best friend, anyone, a mother, father, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, child, you know, it's hard. Very hard at times. And I doubt if we ever get over it. But hey, life goes on, as they say. I have other people that I love and adore. Like my grandchildren, I absolutely adore them. I besotted with my own 3 children. I just wish they'd sometimes realise that. That's really weird to say that, because there are times when you don't get on, do you know what I mean? Or you disagree about something, but my kids mean everything to me. Absolutely everything. And yeah, and my grandchildren mean the world. I don't know where I'd be without them, actually. Anyway, let's move on. Come on, get together. Number 14. What do you miss most from your childhood? Remembering it. Remembering it. I've started where, I mean, I used to remember everything. And there wasn't a thing I couldn't remember, could not remember, if you know what I mean. But I've started finding, and I'm thinking, hang on, did that happen? There's things I can't remember. I'm 62, and it's now when my memories, things have to jolt my memory, and then I remember it. Whereas before it was just there, and I could think of something, and it was there. So that's really weird, getting to my 60s, and I've started to forget things. And unless I'm reminded, or, you know, something jolts my memory. So yeah, remembering it. God. Do you miss your grandparents? Yes, terribly. I adored my grandmother and I adored my grandfather, but my grandfather was my friend. And I could talk to him about anything and everything. And I spent a lot of my time when I was a child with him on holidays and things like that. And I often used to ring them regularly. And then as I had my own children and they got to see them and meet them, and I still used to ring them all the time. Yeah, I miss them both a lot. What age did you leave home? I was almost 17. I was working at a place called Dennis Fisher's in Wetherby. And we used to get the coach at the top of the road where I live now, and to work on a morning. That's when I met Julie, at the bus stop at the top here. I don't know if I've told you this, but the day I met Julie, I was on the bus, on the coach. And as I sat on the bus, this woman come walking alongside the bus, the coach. And she had trousers, her hair up in a bun at the back, but all neat and quick, you know, like, oh God, right posh she looked. And a cream Mac. And I thought, she had a hat on with the bun. And I thought, she don't look like she knows how to work, let alone done any work. You know, that sort of person. And she got on the bus and she walked up the middle of the aisle and she looked at me and she went, "Is anybody?" And she says, "Is anybody sat there?" And I went, "No." She went, "Oh, can I sit there?" So I said, "Yeah, of course you can." And we were so different from chalk and cheese, but we hit it off and we were friends for 45 years. But yeah. So yeah, I was 16, nearly 17 when I left. Sorry, I was nearly 17 when I left home. Have you any regrets? Yes. One, I don't drive. It's my biggest regret. In fact, it's the only regret, because everything else I'm glad I've done, seen, been, lived. Because like I say, that's what's made me the person I am today. But I didn't. I started to drive, and then Raymond put me off it and said, "Oh, you don't need it. I'll take you anywhere you need to go." And I took his advice and regretted it. So yeah, that's the only regret I've got in life. You've said in the past that you like history. Which history? Any history. I absolutely love history. I'm not a royalist, but I like to delve into the royal lineage. However you say it. Anyway, I like to find out how the royal families of Europe are connected. It's fascinating. And many years ago, Raymond bought me a book, and it's 1,000 years of history, royal history. And I started to do the family tree of our British royal family into the royals. And somewhere on disc, I've got it all. Because I was saving it on disc. We were living in Scotland at the time. But I've always done history. I'm fascinated by history. And mainly because when I was younger reading the newspaper, a lot of kids were out playing, I was reading the newspaper. I was that sort of person. And all the smallest little snippets, I always remember my dad saying, they only write small snippets when they don't want you to know the news. And he's so right, so right. Any big headliners and that, oh, it's a load of palaver. But you get the little tiny snippets that they write. They don't really want you to know anything, so they hope you'll just pass that bit. And that put me on an intrigue road, if you know what I mean. And I've delved ever since. So I was only a child, so probably about 10, 11, when I became extremely interested in history. I do, like I say, I'm not a royalist, but I do like history on the royals and just history in general. I like to know why somebody did something. Why did the women tie themselves to the railings in London? Obviously we know why. But why did, this happen? Why did that happen? So, yeah. It's more than history, isn't it? Because I'm delving into the reasons. It's not just the history of what happened. It's why and who did what. So, I'm nosy. What was the other one? So that was number 18. Let's see if we can get this finished before my camera runs out. 19. Do you still do archaeology? No. Unfortunately, Ray and I gave up archaeology about 10 years ago. Mainly because it was hard on the knees, hard on the legs. And the strength alone, talking about doing 50, being 50 odd, race 60 odd, climbing up and down cliffs on a rope. No. We do still take an interest in it, but we don't actually do it ourselves. Have you ever written a book? Yes, I've written several books. I've written one novel, unpublished, but I have published, I think it's 4 children's books. And I've also done picture books and things like that. So sometimes I do them and sell them on the shop. Well, am I going to make $1 million from it? Nah, my hell. No. I might go to publish my novel, but I'm not sure. No, don't know. What was your favourite subject in school? Well, I had 3 favourite subjects. Art and design, and it was art and design then. Woodwork, I loved woodwork. And history. Well, art and design they don't do in schools anymore. Very rare. They don't do it in primary schools. Woodwork, they don't do that anymore in schools. And history, they're not even teaching the right history, so bummer on all 3 really, innit? That was number 21. Number 22, this is the last question. Do you have a bucket list? Yes, I do. My daughter's been informed that before I reach 65, I want to go to Bavaria. It's a particular trip. You start in one place and you work all the way around. It takes a week to do it, and you go to about 12 different castles, fairy tale castles. And it's King Ludwig's castles in Bavaria. It's a particular trip that you can do, and I want to do that. That's on my bucket list. I've wanted to do that for years. And 2, go back to Scotland to redo some of my trips with Julie. We saw some amazing places that we only went to once, and I've got everything written down, and I've got all our plans and everything. Well, we didn't really plan, but we wrote everything down. I used to keep a little diary wherever we went, for when I did the books, because I published 4 books for Julie of our trips, and I've got a copy of them somewhere as well. So yeah, I'd like to go over those trips again, and just for the memories, really. We had a good laugh. Who was silly? She'd drive off the road into a ditch because she were laughing so much. She nearly bloody killed us lots of times. But anyway, that's it. That's my questions and answers. I've done 22. If you want to know any more, you're going to have to put them down on this video. So if you want a question answered, any particular question, not fussed what it is, I don't hide anything. I've nothing to hide, and I'm no problem speaking about anything. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Hope that's give you a little bit of an insight to me and who I am. Yeah. See you later. Bye bye for now.